Good evening, and welcome to this week's edition of Ready to Run, a live show that focuses on youth candidates who are running for office under the platform of 91 political parties in Nigeria. This show is brought to you by Yiga Africa, the Not Too Young to Run movement, in partnership with Channels Television and supported by the European Union. On the 16th of February 2019, the day that we've been waiting for, we will go to the polls to elect the presidential candidates as well as National Assembly members. And let's look at what data actually tells us. Based on data from INEC, about 84,004 registered voters have registered to vote in this election. 52% of them are males and 47% are females. The youth category is also about 51.1%. So apparently this election will be determined by young people. And this number of registered voters will be voting in 176,966 voting points for a total number of over 1,500 elective positions. Now check the data. There are about 23,616 candidates who will be running for office, and they'll be contesting for just 1,558,000. And INEC has said that they expect to deploy over 814,000 election officials. Earlier this week, something interesting happened, and Yiga launched the Youth Candidacy report that provided data and statistics on how young people are faring in the 2019 general elections. And if you look at what data said and look at the graphic on your screen, it clearly tells us that for the 2019 election, there seemed to be an increase in the level of youth candidates who are running for elections in the 2019 elections. On the show tonight, we're pleased to host 5 young presidential candidates to share their agenda and their development plan if voted as president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Africa's pride and Africa's largest or most populated country, and in fact, the pride of Africa, because these elections are very, very critical for the continent of Africa. Most of the candidates who are featured on today's edition of the show are beneficiaries of the Not Too Young to Run Act, because they are able to run for office because the law was amended and the age was reduced from 40 to 35. I'd like to announce that we have in our midst today a live audience who will be joining on in this conversation, and they will be asking and engaging with our guests and to interrogate some of their plans and what they will do if they are voted in as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We'll go on a very, very short break now, and when we return, you'll get a chance to meet the young presidential candidates who are running in one of Africa's largest, greatest elections in this year. We'll be back after this short break. Welcome back from that very short break. In case you're just joining us, this is Ready to Run, a live TV show that focuses on youth candidates who are running for office in the 2019 election. And this is a special edition, and we are engaging 5 young presidential candidates who are running for office. Tonight on the show, we're excited to be joined by Ademola Babatunde Abidemi, who is of the Nigeria Community Movement Party, NCMP, and is 37 years, who's running for the office of the president. Welcome, Ademola.
Thank you very much for having me.
With us on the show tonight is Chike Okaebu, who is of the Advanced Allied Party, AAP, and he is 35 years running for the office. I hope I didn't pronounce your name wrongly.
You actually did. It's Ukebu.
Ukebu.
Yeah.
Ukebu. I'm sorry about that. On my immediate left, we have Etim Emmanuel Ishe. Yeah, he's of the Change Nigeria Party, CNP, and he's 38 years running for the office of the president.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome to the show. The only female candidate joining us tonight is Eunice Atu Ejide, who is the candidate of the National Interest Party, NIP, and has 40 years a candidate in the presidential elections. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And last but not the least, we are joined by Ahmed Buhari of the Sustainable National Party, SNP. And he's 36 years, is that correct?
That's correct.
Ah, correct. Oh, great. So welcome to the show, and once again, welcome to our guests. I'll just ask one question, perhaps start from Ademola. Why do you want to be president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria?
Thank you very much, and thank you, viewers at home. 10 years ago, I used to be among those who goes to newspapers, vendors, and begin to argue about leadership in Nigeria. I usually argue about the development in our country, and at the time, in 2008, I stopped arguing. So I thought the best thing to do is to actually look into the problems of this country. And about 9 years, I set up several committees, and we've been looking at all the institutions in Nigeria. We've looked at the problems of the political party platforms. We have also looked at the people that are called Nigerians themselves. And all of this put together, having realized the root cause of our problems as a nation, I decided to say, when it's right time for me 2 years ago to feature an INEC structure for registration of political parties, having realized that the political space and the political party system in Nigeria does not allow people who truly have better ideologies to actually solve the problems of our country, you know, to come in. When you get in, they ask you, you need to probably stay and watch and learn. Then you begin to learn several other things that will not actually have any effect on the country. So because of that, having done the proper assessment, having done the proper review, having extracts from the security structure, the statistics of so many issues within institutions, generally the judiciary, the executive, the legislative arm, and all other institutions that are embedded in our constitution to actually uphold the integrity of governance in Nigeria. I decided to say, looking at the...
Okay, because you've just spent your 2 minutes. We will come back and talk more about the motivations for running for office. But Chike, why do you want to be president of Nigeria?
It's very simple. We live in a nation where the average age is 18.2. We have a democracy. We've been independent for about 58, going on 59 years. And the current leaders we have are people who learn leadership from the perspective of colonialism. And in fact, for the last 58 years has not worked for us. We're walking into the 4th Industrial Revolution. We're walking into an age where the people who currently hold power do not understand what it takes to lead us into that future. It's like asking an analog system to lead the digital population into the future. Now, so when you ask me why is it important for me to run for president, it is important because we have to understand that, as we say in Nigeria, body language matters. And when the head is wrong, it affects the entire body. Now, so some people say, well, you're too young. And I'd say, well, what we're doing is not unprecedented. The man who led us into the only war Nigeria has faced in our independence was a 31-year-old guy, General Gowon. So this is not unprecedented. It's an understanding that we have what it takes to lead our nation into the future that we're walking into. We have what it takes to make the decisions that affect our lives, because as I tell people, this is a fight for our lives, and with the not too young to run bill, we can no longer blame any other person for making the decisions that you and I would have to pay for tomorrow. So in understanding that it's important for us to take on the mantle of leadership to inspire a nation that 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years from now, those of us who are here may still be in the workforce dealing with the consequences of people who have not been able to lead us. So it's, yeah.
All right, great. Emmanuel.
Why I want to be president?
Yeah.
I think that, you know, I've spent a lot of time answering these questions, and sometimes you're telling yourself, what new do you want to say? This is why I want to be president. Number one, I have been part of designing policy in Nigeria from when I was 15 years old, from education to health to employment to financial inclusion. And I know that designing policy is one thing, implementation is another. I've been part of issues around how do we find the money to fund development? How do we find the money to fund governance? And I understand that the approach that we're taking in Nigeria at the moment is not going to solve that problem. And it's not going to solve the problem not just because of this administration, but the last 2 decades have shown that we are not able to solve that problem. 3, I'm running for president because I understand that we have a solution that can actually bring electricity 24 hours to the homes of every Nigerian as we speak right now. We don't have to wait for Vision 2023 or for Vision 2030 for that to happen. I understand that the poverty levels in these countries are high, but they're not high because people choose to be poor, but that people are structurally made poor, induced into poverty. I'm running for president in Nigeria because I've been rich, I've been poor, I've been rich. To be rich is better. And why do I say that? There is really no reason why a young Nigerian should not be able to enter school, have an education, or be able to, graduate and find a job because of who their parents were or where they are coming from. So I'm running to be president of Nigeria because I believe that this is the time we have the opportunity to create an equitable society where the benefit for being Nigerian is defined, where you know that because I'm a Nigerian, these are my benefits. My socioeconomic rights are justiciable. I can go to have an education I want, wherever I want it. I can be who I want to be, the way I want to be, and I can actually have the opportunity as a Nigerian to compete with the rest of the world, with my country being able to support me to do business, to do it profitably, and to succeed. These are just probably, and I'll come back to more of these issues.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
Eunice, why do you want to be president of Nigeria?
You didn't even tell us how long we have, so it's as if we can speak forever, but let me limit mine
I am keeping the time.
Let me limit mine to 1 minute, because it's really easy for me. I want to be president because we are living in a country where we have had many presidents, almost all of whom have failed us, if not all. And I am one person who thinks of issues from a solution point of view. So I have looked at my country and I've looked at the way we have governed it so far, and I've researched some of our political parties, and I've come to the conclusion that a lot of our problems come from the way we do things from within the political parties and then spreads into what we do as a country by the kind of leaders we choose from within those political parties. So I said to myself, I need to get into that space and bring a different format that is different from what we have. A place where good people with true selfless plans for this country can come into government. The only way I can achieve that is president, because as president you can bring in up to 45,000 people by appointment, and then you will be dealing with about 1,500 who are elected. So you have a larger number of Nigerians who can work with you to help the rest of us move forward. So that was the only reason I saw for coming in as the presidential candidate, because if I should win it, there is a huge opportunity to actually drive solutions to a lot of our problems.
Ahmed.
Thanks, Anthony. Thank you for inviting me. On the 1st of October 2016, I made a declaration to run for this office, and that makes me the first youngest person to actually declare in the build-up of 2019 general elections to run for this office. And it was born out of my desire to see that we born or rebirth a new kind of Nigeria. When I talk about a new kind of Nigeria, I want to see that Nigeria that I saw in the 80s when I was growing up, where there was some unity, where people would hold themselves together regardless of all of those things that have always divided them, whether ethnicity, religion, political party, ideological affiliations, social status, gender, even age brackets. We want to see that in Nigeria where everybody can come together and say, unless we understand that we have to be a united people, we cannot be a progressive people. That is the main reason why we're being held back. But, it's more than just becoming president. For me, I'm excited that all of this is happening because that decision was made on that day, and that declaration was announced to the country and the world on that day. So it's about young people realizing that before they can get the kind of country they would desire, they would have to take part in this process. Yeah. They would have to understand politics, they will have to understand governance, they will have to understand the structure, they will have to know that before you can actually actualize this kind of dream, you must spread your tentacles, understand that the country is wider than you can ever imagine, and reach out to the base. Meet the people at the grassroots and let them understand what you're selling. If we cannot meet the people at the grassroots, then we're not communicating with the system. So most of us have actually come out because, of course, it's a fancy thing to run for president. But then you get to realize when you hit the field that it's bigger than just making an announcement. You will have to visit at least 36 states in the country, meet different kinds of people, run your structure. So when we started in October, before then we had built a structure called the Reformation. And in that Reformation, we had people on all parts of the country where you had, state coordinators, local government representatives, ward level representatives, all in a bid to raise this awareness. And I'm glad that today we have got more young people. And I have to really say a very big thank you to the Not Too Young to Run. It now came at a time when everything that we were doing on our own part started making sense. And I'm glad that we're here in 2019 and we're having many young people looking forward to seeing how we can change the narrative.
All right, so we're going to come to you shortly to ask your questions. But before then, let me go back to you. Do you think you're prepared to be president of Nigeria?
Yes, I'm actually.
Why so? What experience do you have to actually run for this particular office?
Okay, at 26, I was the SPG president of the Polytechnic Ibadan, and I was the director of strategy and planning for National Association of Nigerian Students. I had 14 institutions under me in Oyo State. And the records are still there, aside the fact of the policies that I tried to establish with the management of the institution, our structural development, they are still there till today. At 26, I was able to look at the troubles that the students are going through while they queue at the bus stop where there is no space for them to hang when there is rain. So I had to build a bus stop for them. And it's still there till date. And the SUB at that time was not under construction. I had to bring in people, which is one of the things that our leaders don't do in this country. They don't know how to assess humanity and use human beings to actually build the economic system. And so I built up people, I brought them to the campus, and then they gave us funds.
Just that, what else? What did I experience?
Now, I used to be, I'm still a JCI member. I've learned a lot about leadership.
Do you think that's sufficient enough?
Yes, it is.
You think it's sufficient?
Leadership is about decision making.
But that's really
the hard one.
The country called Nigeria. Nigeria is in SUG.
Yeah.
Nigeria is in JCI.
Yeah, actually, because I know a lot about Nigeria.
So
what
experiences from there are you going to bring into public governance?
Now, like I said earlier, the government that we have, or the leadership, the kind of leadership we've had so far in Nigeria, have not really depicted the true existence of who we are. And because of that, I've been able to, I've worked as a consultant for oil and gas sector for 9 years now. I've seen a lot of things that have happened in the country. I know the root cause of our problem. I know the political party platform that have engaged in feeding bad leadership that have caused us the damages we are seeing in the country today. Now, having realized all of these things...
No, I know you've realized all of these things. We will come to that. But Chike, are you prepared? What makes you think you're actually prepared for this office?
Let's start with education, right? So my background is in biomedical engineering, right? I studied biomedical engineering, took MBA courses at UPenn. I studied leadership and management at Cornell University, and I have an executive certificate in venture capital investments from Stanford University. Now, that aside, as a 21-year-old, I became a Colin Powell Fellow on youth-related policies and decided to focus on youth disconnection. Unfortunately, Nigeria has the largest population of disconnected youth. That led to research around that and trying to understand the problems of youth disconnection. That led to the authoring of a model called the HEROES model. HEROES is an acronym for Heritage, Education, Relationships, Opportunities, Entrepreneurship, and Service. 6 crucial areas for youth development. 21, I also became an assistant professor at the City College of New York. 25, I became a teacher, started teaching math, which I did for 7 years. 26, I co-founded Real Life, which is a non-profit focused on empowering at-risk and disconnected youth with education, entrepreneurship, and technology. 29, became a certified foster parent.
I'm going to cut you short. Yes, it's good to have all of this.
Yes. So when you talk about,
but what are you bringing?
Right. So when you ask, what do I bring to the table? Now,
what makes you think you're prepared?
A combination of all, I've advised over 20 different nations on how to build an inclusive and diverse economies, both for technology and entrepreneurship. I launched the first diversity-focused tech accelerator in New York City. So when it comes to leadership, what is dealing with, foreign policy or dealing with youth-related or domestic policy, I have experience doing that. The three things that I believe are extremely important in developing the economy and human capital in our nation,
we will come to those
technology,
issues.
education, and entrepreneurship are things that I have worked on for the last 13 years.
We will. Amen.
Sure.
What's the question again?
Yeah, the question is, are you prepared? What makes you think you're actually prepared?
Well,
do you have any form of experience?
Yes, well, I've got experience, and when it comes to leadership, I've tried to make people understand that the required experience to give you good leadership does not have to be earned through a political process. So sometimes when people try to look at you and think you're young, the belief is that you probably do not have anything to offer in a political space. But the required experience to give that good leadership does not really have to come from a political process. So all my my colleagues who have actually talked about where they're coming from, what they've done, they're actually valid. But now the big part here is to see how you can sell yourself to the people, is to see how you can engineer the people to resonate with what you're trying to see happen in future. And that is the only way they can build that confidence in you. So the reason why all of us here have got excellent ideas. You talk to the people in the audience, they've got excellent ideas. You talk to the people watching this from home, they've got excellent ideas. Even the people at the newspaper stand, they've got excellent ideas. But the problem here is the electorate, the majority of the electorate are fixated on those people that they have seen over time. And they have sort of idolized those people. These people have become some mini gods to them because they have seen them in the political space over and over. So no matter how much good ideas you come with, no matter how much innovative approach you want to bring into the polity, they're not prepared to budge. So our responsibility here is to make sure that we fine-tune whatever we're selling so the electorate must be carried along.
Eunice, does experience count?
Experience counts. Absolutely.
Do you have that experience?
Yes.
What makes you think you do have that experience?
I came in and I dived in head first. Absolutely. I'm the founder and the national chairman of my political party, that is the National Interest Party. And what did we do? We started from law school and we involved people from every part of Nigeria, absolutely every 774 local government areas in Nigeria. We got ourselves together because we knew this was about Nigeria and we had to lead from everywhere in Nigeria, and we had to project ourselves, and we had to manage our situation also, because we're all from different tribes, different religions, different sexes, everything was different, but we had to work together. And for us, it was important to keep it together, because if we couldn't keep it together, become a political party and continue to expand, we couldn't help Nigeria. So it's very important to have that experience, and I started out learning it, like right there, we want to save this country, we must save it, practicing exactly what we're going to see in that bigger picture. So from becoming a political party, I became the Deputy National Secretary of the Interparty Advisory Council. That is one competition they fight for, almost like a presidency in Nigeria. So we had to pick 9 out of 91, and this is 91 people who believe they are absolutely most qualified for this position, and they give everything to win. So I had to go in there, and being a woman and being all the things they thought was a problem for me, that was rather my strength. We need to do things differently. There are new ideas. We need to come into the space from the politics.
We're actually going to talk about these ideas, because you guys have talked about different.
You said experience, and I'm telling you, experience is very important. But what you people make, the mistake you make is your experience is to go and run for local government councillor or no.
No, by
the experience
which people?
Is,
what do you mean?
When you ask, do you have experience? Okay. People expect you to respond with, yes, I was local government chairman or State House of Assembly member, constituency. But that's not the experience you actually need. The experience you need is the experience to mobilize people, the experience to keep people together, to make them have a united reason to fight for something together, to believe. Forget about culture, forget about religion, forget about all the differences, but this is the achievement we need to have, and then come together and do it. That's my work as the president, and that I can do.
All right. We'll go on a very short break, and when we return, we'll hear from Emmanuel whether or not he's got the experience and he has what it takes to hold public office and also come to our listeners. Please, we'll be back after the short break.
Hello, Nigeria. My name is Bella Anandubisi, and I'm a member of the Not Too Young to Run movement. What would you do if all you had was the power of your vote? Voting is one of the most important civic responsibilities we have as Nigerians. It is our opportunity to elect the most credible and competent individuals who understand the issues and who we believe will match their words with actions. Did you know that 51% of registered voters are young people? Yes, more than half of registered voters in Nigeria are young people, and so we have what it takes to change the course of this country. To maximize the power of our vote and to ensure that we turn out the largest number of voters in Nigeria, Yaga Africa and the Not Too Young to Run movement have come up with a Get Out the Vote mobilization campaign to increase the number of voter turnout by election day. It's called the Get Out the Vote campaign. Get Out the Vote is a voter mobilization campaign designed to increase voter turnout on election day. All you need is your permanent voter card. Here are the 5 steps to take to be a part of this campaign. Number 1, identify your team. Invite 4 individuals to join your GoTV5 team. These individuals do not have to reside in your state of residence. They don't have to look like you. As a matter of fact, we want you to make this more fun and to make your team as diverse as possible. After you've identified your team, the next step is you register your team. Work with your team members to come up with a really cool and fancy name and register your team on www.yaga.org/GOTV5. Enter the names of your team members and their state of voter registration, and Yaga Africa will send you up-to-date election information leading up to the day of election. Step 3, grow your circle. Challenge each member of your team to also go out and get 4 people to join their team and grow their Get Out the Vote 5 team. Your Get Out the Vote team is not complete until every single member of your team also have their circles. Step 4, share your GoTV team. Encourage others to join the campaign by sharing your team on social media using the hashtag GoTV5. You can win an opportunity to be featured with your team on this show if you get your team out on social media. Step 5, the most important step. The goal of this campaign is to ensure that every team member votes on election day. And so on February 16th and on March 2nd, we ask that you call your GoTV5 team members and ensure that they go out and vote. Each team should send photos of themselves standing in line in their polling unit. And once your team is up, visit www.yaga.org/GoTV5 and give us a high five. Remember, you're not allowed to use your cell phones in the polling booths according to the INEC regulations. I want to use this opportunity to say a big shout out to my GoTV5 team, Joseph Chidebere, Dorothy Njemanze, Janet Smith, and Tijani Echahir. We are the Niger is a Go team. GoTV5, what are you waiting for? Visit www.yaga.org/GoTV5 and register your team today. Remember, sign up your team and join the conversation on our social media platforms using hashtag GoTV5. It's not enough to be an armchair critic. Criticism does not win election. Social media posts does not win election. And it's not enough to vote alone. Vote and invite a team of your friends and family to join you as well and vote. You've got the power. Your vote is your voice. Thank you. I would now like to turn it on back to Samson Itodo to continue the interview.
Now that you've celebrated your own team, unfortunately, I've not constituted mine, but I've got lots of requests and people want to join my team. So please, please register your team. It's very, very important. We need to make our numbers count as young people or as registered voters. It's not enough to say we are youth, but we must make our numbers count by coming out to cast our votes on election day. So thank you very much, Bella. So before we went on that break and then Bella took us through the GoTV5 campaign, you were to tell us whether you've got the experience.
Well, yes. I like it when people say that, you know, do you have the experience? And I always say that my experience is a 20-year span. So I'll just give you a snapshot of what that includes, I've been part of policy design and implementation in Nigeria. So starting from policies with regards to education curricular development, the health policy, what you also have as National Health Insurance Scheme. I was part of the team that designed that. I was part of the financial inclusion strategy that was launched by the Central Bank of Nigeria. I was part of work around, the Niger Delta, especially the Niger Delta Technical Committee, the Presidential Committee. I was an advisor to the process and also managed the entire memoranda process, getting Nigerians to contribute, analyzing that, putting forward recommendations to the president. So I have played roles in this country from from being a consultant, a resource person, advisor across different ministries, and then I moved that to a level with the African Union where I was engaging 55 member state heads of state around issues around human capital development, around education, and around youth. I moved from there to the United Nations where I was engaging the rest of the world around foreign policy specific, around the SDGs process and trying to argue for things like technology transfer or sharing, things like domestic finance for development in Africa, how the rest of the world, European Union, the US government can support Africa to expand its tax generation capacity. Mm-hmm. So in terms of experience across the policy issues, I have that. In terms of negotiating with the rest of the world, foreign policy, I've got the experience. In terms of education and training, I've got the experience. So
okay,
the question of experience
what we've tried to establish is all of you, the 5 of you, do lay hold to the claim that you've got the experience to hold or contest for the office of the president. I don't know if our guests actually think that they do have, but it's time for you to ask us, ask our guests some questions. I don't know if there's anyone here. We've got a lady, so please tell us your name and ask your question and direct your question to the candidates.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mariam Laushi. I have one question. I don't know who's going to take it or if everybody can take it, but it has been reported that we have over 90 million people in Nigeria living in poverty, which is one of the biggest numbers in the world. What will you, if elected president, what are the practical steps that you will take in order to bring these people out of poverty?
Thank you. Any other? Yes. The gentleman in front.
Hello, very good evening to you all. My name is Mustafa Othman. I just want to ask a question that is actually a serious problem in Nigeria, managing the civil service itself. Being a president, all of you have experiences in different fields. You're, of course, very special. I like that. But how do you intend? I like, Mr. Emmanuel, the way you explained how you have gone through policy making, management, and what have you. I'm sure you've cut across all the ministries. And probably you have seen how rotten it is in the ministries. So how do you intend to find a way to create those policies that you intend to bring on board, to change the narratives in the ministries?
Yeah, there's someone here, and then we can come here.
Yes, thank you. My name is Anne Nwachukwu. My first question is talking about opening up the space for civic participation and engagement. What are your plans in tangible terms on how you will strengthen the civic space, especially with respect to the Freedom of Information Act of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and also to the provisions of open government partnership? Using these two instruments, open government partnership and the Freedom of Information Act of the Federal Republic, how are you going to strengthen citizen participation and civic engagement?
All right, so we've got one here, the gentleman to the extreme, or we can go that way. So the gentleman in green.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Joseph Akoro. I'm from Lagos. I have a question that borders around security. And I'm particularly concerned as a Nigerian, the security of disadvantaged populations. And these include, young women in particular, children in crisis region, and also people who have been discriminated based on their sexual orientation and gender identity. I would like, the president candidates to please respond to this issue.
Yeah, so let's go this way. Austin, and then lastly. So we'll take this first round, and we'll respond, and then we can come to you. The show is about you, so don't worry. Yes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ikechukwu Adubasem. I am the founder of PAM, Progressive African Minds. This is a general question to all the candidates. In recent times, none of us is oblivious to the fact that our country has been more divided than ever. So what I want to know is, what are the tactical and strategic plans to correct this issue? That's just it.
Thanks, Austin.
My name is Austin, and I work for the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD. I'm maybe just building up on that. There's been debate about devolution of power. And in fact, one of the greatest, in my opinion, the greatest challenge of the Nigerian state is the disunity. How do you support the restructuring, and what will be your strategy? If you do, how do you intend to achieve that?
All right, that's fine. So we'll come back. And let me start with you, Ademola. There are two questions that bother on national integration, national unity, as well as devolution of power. What's your plan?
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually,
First, let's deal with national unity and national integration first.
Yeah, it's a very big challenge. It's a complex one. I studied and I tried to look at books. I discovered that the disintegration that we talked about in the country today didn't start yesterday. It started around 1956, when leadership were basically passionate
Ademola,
about
I'm sorry,
the
I'm going to
region.
have to cut you, but I think it's important. Just tell us exactly what you will do.
Yeah, one of the key things that we plan to do is, first of all, we establish the Chapter 2, we enforce the Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That's the first thing we're going to do. Secondly, in order to bring this unity, we are going to re-institutionalize and revisit the Council of Traditional Rulers Institution, such that we can empower them to foster unity among their clans. And then we are going to look at the security structure and the polity and policies that is governing political doctrines in Nigeria.
All right, so that's three things you're going to do, national unity. Eunice, what will you do? What's your plan?
My plan is to bring everybody together. It is...
How are you going to do that?
By making sure that my cabinet brings people from every nook and cranny of this country who are of utmost integrity and qualified to do the various jobs we are going to be giving to them to do. When you bring the people from every part of Nigeria together in the center, you are giving the rest of us the hope that their interest is represented. And then when they see that it is actually the best of them who have come into the center, you give the average Nigerian confidence that whatever the decisions are going to be, it will be for everybody's good that the decisions are made. Create that atmosphere, and most of the work becomes easier because the agitations will calm down. And then you have the opportunity to start to develop your policies, implement those policies. Because implementation is more our problems. If you look at our laws, we have great laws, we have great ideas, but they end up as ideas, they don't end up in the practical space.
Chike, do you agree that we are divided as a nation? Is that true?
Yes, we are, and part of the reason
So
is...
what will you do?
So I was going to talk about this. It's an understanding that we have to start to embark on, or rather, I will embark on a nation-first ideology. I say this, I'm Nigerian first before I'm Igbo, right? So until we start to understand that your interest should be the interest of the nation first before self-interest, that is the way we start to change the ideology. Now, as a president, the first thing you have to do is you have to do an apology tour in understanding, making the people understand that our government has failed at the two most basic responsibilities of governance, which is to protect and to provide for the people. Once you're able to inspire people to believe that their best interest is what you have at heart, diversity and inclusion, and understanding the importance of diversity and inclusion by not leaving anyone out, bringing people to the table to have conversations about the things that matter to them, and finding solutions or working with them to build solutions to start to solve those things. One, we increase security. Some of the problems we have, insurgencies we have, are because our government has refused to listen to people and their problems. So we increase security. You have more people involved, from the old, the young. We have 520 languages. We have 6 geopolitical zones. How do we make sure that people are adequately represented to reflect the interests of their constituencies?
Emmanuel.
I think for me, first of all official business of government, or as it were, institutions will have to eliminate this business around state of origin, indigene, where are you from, and so on. That's going to go out. What we are most important is where you're resident, where you live in it. That's the most important information. So in addition to taking our religion away. Number two, I'm going to have to be president of all. Yeah, I'm not going to be president of the North or the South. I'll be president of Nigeria, president of all Nigerians. Number three, we are going to also ensure that everyone in Nigeria feels they have equal right to have access to representation, access to lead, and we will have people based on merit. People will serve, get opportunities based on merit. And even in the case where you feel that you're not being given an opportunity because of where you're from, or you've been discriminated because of what your surname is, that will become a punishable offense in Nigeria.
Ahmed.
Well, when we started this whole thing, it's about unity, as a matter of fact, because only a united people can become a progressive people. But some of the key things we want to do upon assumption in office is to declare a state of emergency on hunger. We have been through every part of this country in the last 3 years, and people are not listening to you. They can listen, but they can't comprehend, they can't understand you. That's because they're really hungry. The reason why you see people in thousands going for rallies is because they're hoping to get something in return. Nobody would be at workplace and leave workplace to go for a rally. What would you eat? So the truth of the matter is that people are disenfranchised on all levels, and the biggest part of the problem is hunger. So we are going to have an agricultural revolution that doesn't just stop at the farm gates, but we're going to have to make sure that we process whatever we produce. We're going to make sure that before we export, Nigerians have been fed. And whenever we're exporting this produce at the best value, not at the lowest value. Okay. And when we leave these things to be processed here, you're not just processing them, you're actually allowing jobs to come to Nigerians. But more fundamentally, with regards to uniting our people, we would have to leverage on our comparative economic advantages. What are those things? Those are the things that you have in Aba that you don't have in Kano. You have in Kano, you don't have in Aba. Like the relationship that exists between Kebbi State and Lagos State with the rice farming and all of that. We need to identify those places, how you find leather manufacturers in area markets, and you find leather being beaten heights and skin in Sharada, in Kanu. We need to marry these things together. This is how the people will now find a relationship with themselves, because we all have things that can unite us together. Right. Unfortunately, the system isn't letting us know how to do that.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Ademola, what are you going to do to lift people out of poverty?
Thank you very much. If you look at the situation in the country right now, like I rightly said, mine is about 6 years now that we've been visiting different parts of the country. I've been to Ogbijo in Niger Delta, in Delta State. I've been to Patani, I've been to Brass Bonny. I've seen children on the stream, defecating and still drinking the water from that particular stream. I've been to Koi in Kaduna, I've been to several places in Borno. I've seen the challenges, I've seen people, not being able to actually express that innate ability to actually do something. So, first of all, we are going to make sure that the policy that is looking at the empowerment programs that government is putting up and the institutions that are involved in it, we have discovered that a lot of corruptions are within the institutions, and the managers of those structures to actually get people out of that poverty. We first review and reform the system, the policies. Having done that, we create an open space for people to actually thrive in business. Like he mentioned, area market. If you don't create an enabling environment for people to actually be able to express their business activities, and also looking at the banking structure, the kind of interest they put on people who are just coming on board to do one or two things, it's also difficult. So we are going to make sure that all the institutions that are involved in making SMEs to thrive in Nigeria will actually work on them and then push them forward to get a better structure for people to, be able to feed themselves. And then, secondly...
Sorry, we have to get to Chike. Sure. Tell us how he will reduce poverty if voted as president.
So the three pillars on which my candidacy is built: education, technology, and entrepreneurship. I believe that things that build a sustainable economy. Education, because it enables us to identify, understand, and solve our problems. Technology amplifies the solutions, and entrepreneurship monetizes them. Now, based on these three things, we came up with 4 solutions to curb that. One, feed the people. Feed the people is a poverty alleviation scheme that actually puts money in hands of Nigerians to put food on their table. But more importantly, that stipend is attached to deliverables, which means in order for you to get this payment every month for 2 years or for 2.5 years, you have to attend skills development classes. You have to attend entrepreneurship classes, because it's important to make sure that you are gaining skill sets that can build our economy. Now, by doing that, we want to see that as you make progress, whether you're becoming an apprentice, whether you're starting a small business, then we can supplement that with grants or interest-free loans to enable you build out, small businesses to build our economy, because we cannot build a solid economy on the backs of people who live in extreme hunger. Okay. Now, that's one. 2, invest in our well-being. This is investment in infrastructure, in healthcare, in power, and all of that, and understanding that every single sector in our nation today is untapped, which becomes an opportunity for creating jobs for young people. So the 30 million unemployed people we have today, we can actually get them into gainful employment if we start to invest in infrastructure, if we invest in power, in understanding the small businesses today spend 40% of the operational capital on generating power alone. So restoring that or giving them power gives them more room to be a little bit more productive and to grow.
All right, Eunice, what will you do to lift people out of poverty or reduce poverty, as the case may be?
I'll build on what Chike has said, that you need to look at education, health, and look at how to expand the economy. And one of the things I have proposed is to open up the economy by bringing in low-interest loans or even grants to businesses, and then allow the private sector to work hand in hand with the government. You need to have more private sector activities. Open things up. Remove the regulations and policies that make it impossible for people to start businesses and actually run it over a long time. I have people who had to fold up their suya businesses, hair salons and stuff, because they had regulators coming there regularly, almost every week, demanding for certain payments and licenses, and before you knew it, they had to pack up, even though their businesses could have given like 500, 600 people jobs all over the country. They had to pack up and leave. And those kind of policies, we have to remove them. Okay. We have to make it possible for people to access low-interest loans, use those loans to run their businesses, and then we need to look at incentives. Tax incentives are very important. Be able to allow businesses to come into this country, go to the most remote areas of this country, start ventures that would help the economy in those places, but then do it on your own, free of taxes, but then let the people get the jobs and then pay taxes that will still help the economy to grow.
Emmanuel, earlier on you said you've seen poverty, you've seen wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Please, how do you translate?
Well, so this is the issue. There are different kinds of poverty. I always say there's structural poverty, there's induced poverty, and there's circumstantial poverty. Most of the poor we're talking about in Nigeria, and I like what they are all saying, but these are not, I believe, the people that you're probably referring to when we say that Nigerians are living in abject poverty. We're talking about people that are farmers and cannot eat. They don't even have 1,000 naira. 1,000 naira to them is your 10,000 naira or maybe 100,000 naira. How do you help those who come out of poverty is the question. And I'm saying, number one, a farmer who doesn't have electricity on site will lose 70% of his cassava in 48 hours if he can't get it out of that place. A farmer who is a small-scale smallholder farmer that doesn't have access to efficient storage capacity is going to lose 50% of what he's going to harvest, whether he or she likes it or not. So those are the poor, the fishermen, though people who literally, no matter how much they wish to, go to Takwa Bay. You could see the abject level of poverty. So we are saying, first, health insurance gets people out of poverty faster than any intervention can do so. Why? Because most people spend all they earn paying out-of-pocket expenditure for health. So what do you then need to do? You need to ensure that you reduce per capita expenditure on health from a private pocket. To do that, you need to ensure people can pay as they earn. And these are not new ideas. This is working in Japan. It's working in other developed countries. Number two, you need to ensure that Nigerians at that level have access to food stamps, if not food stamps, that have access to kind of credit that allows them to do business. But then you must provide, say, for example, 68,000 megawatts of electricity in the next 6 months, and we can do it. If you provide 68,000 megawatts of electricity in 6 months, you will transform the lives of the very poor in Nigeria.
All right, we'll go on a very short break. In case you're just tuning in, this is Ready to Run, a live TV show that focuses on youth candidates who are running in the 2019 general elections. We are joined today by 5 young presidential candidates from 5 different parties. And over the last couple of minutes, they've been telling us what they intend to do if they are elected as president of Nigeria. But we also have a very esteemed audience who are here also joining us on this week's edition of the show. We'll be right back after the short break. Welcome back to Ready to Run TV show, brought to you by Yiga Africa, the Not Too Young to Run movement, in partnership with Channels Television and supported by the European Union. This week, we're joined by 5 young presidential candidates who are telling us their plans if being elected as president of Nigeria. Also, to recognize the Murtala Mohammed Foundation, who is partnering with us on this special edition of the Ready to Run TV show. Before we went on that short break, there are a couple of questions. But Ahmed, let me ask you, what's your position on restructuring?
I do believe that we need to restructure.
How?
I'm more concerned about restructuring the institutions. And one of the reasons why people are not feeling governance is because it's been centralized in Abuja. And when you do that sort of thing, the people do not know who exactly to hold accountable when things are falling short within their immediate communities.
So what are you going to do?
So when we restructure education, for example.
How?
And you say, okay, fine, education is going to be controlled now by the state governors. When you structure healthcare, and you say healthcare is going to be controlled now by the state governors, when you allow the states to be responsible for their natural resources and not necessarily having to wait for a minister.
So how are you going to achieve that? Because the people out there will be very interested in how.
That is why sometimes when I listen to a lot of candidates speak about their involvement and what they desire to do, I shake my head in disagreement, because I know that some of these things can never be achieved without the other arms of government. The other arms of government are so important, and that is why when we started this movement, we were hesitant. We were encouraged a lot of people to get involved in all the levels of the political space, whether you're going to be running for House of Assembly, House of Representative, or you're going to be a senator, because at the end of the day, most of the things that you want to do as a president will only happen when the judiciary and the legislature are with you. Okay. And if you don't have the right kind of people to think in line with you, you cannot achieve anything. All right. So for the things I've talked about with regards to restructuring, they would have to go through the House of Assembly and the Senate.
The House of Assembly? You mean the House of Representatives?
Yes.
Is that a constitutional amendment process, or which
it has to happen, but it has to happen with the right kinds of people.
All right, we'll come to that. Ademola, what's your position on restructuring?
Thank you very much. My position has always been very clear. I've been saying it in different fora. We can't restructure Nigeria with the set of leaders we have currently.
So how are we going to do it?
So the first thing we are going to do is to engage Nigerians, first of all, in this forthcoming election, to ensure that we are changing the narrative by changing the leadership totally. Whatever we can do in the coming election, we must ensure that we're changing the leadership. Having done that, I picked this question. There is no way we can get Nigeria working without setting up a proper structure for all institutions in Nigeria. I know we have 222 institutions in Nigeria.
Public institutions.
Yes, public institutions. And all these institutions, for the past 9 years, have been touring. I've been to Police Service Commission, I've been to the military, I've been to Forestry Research Institute.
For want of time, what would you do to reform?
Yes, there is going to be strategic and practical reform of the policies that is governing all these institutions, first. And secondly, we are going to make sure that the farmers who are working in oil and gas sector, they are moved away.
Can I ask you a question? Training. What specific policy will be reformed to enhance the civil service? What particular policy?
Now, if you look at the act that is governing the works and housing now, power works and housing, okay, you discover that a good number of structures there, the way the power is being distributed, the way the policy for generating fund, and now it comes, the delays, the bureaucracies, and all of that. We need to remove some of these policies that are not allowing the officers to be able to transparently guide the conduct of their services.
Emmanuel, there's a question from the audience on security.
Yes.
What's your blueprint on enhancing the security situation in the country?
Well, I started by saying security has two sides to it. There's the security in terms of perception, and the security in terms of enforcement and protection, promotion, protection, and enforcement. So the first thing here is that we need to understand what our security structure is. And as an economic blueprint, we have looked at security and said, A, we are going to first start by having a comprehensive national policy on defense. Yeah? That's number one. And in fact, as I speak, my security team is already drafting, they're already advanced in the first draft of what that's supposed to look at in terms of architecture. Number two, we're going to remove what we have today as the Nigerian police force at the federal level and have it run as state level. So the commissioners of police...
So you support state police?
Well, not just because I support state police. I'm talking the architecture of policing in Nigeria will be at the highest level at the state. So what you now have at the federal level is a behavioral sciences department. You have a central intelligence department and a bureau of intelligence. Somebody says, oh, they have that already. No, they have that as unit that report to an IG. I'm saying that structure will change and will now have a purely intelligence-driven, knowledge-driven, technology-driven security arrangement in the country. And I need to say this is important for Nigerians to know that in the United States of America, for example, between 1980 and 1990, technology, forensic science, DNA testing, fingerprint devices actually enabled, and CCTV installations helped America fight crime like never fought before in history. So our ability to understand what security is and ensuring that if somebody commits a crime or commits murder, that person is accountable to state to defend themselves for what, no matter the incentives behind it. Murder is murder, and except the court tells you are free and you had the right to commit that murder, you should answer for it and go to jail.
All right, for those who are watching out there, you can be a part of this conversation on Twitter. The hashtag is ready to run. Send us your comments and your questions. We already have a couple of questions coming from our social media platforms. And on Twitter, our handle is ready to run NG. Ready to run NG on Twitter as well as Facebook. Just use the hashtag ready to run and we will take some of your questions. There's a question here, and this is from @manscolin. And so this question is for all candidates. I'm sure we're also going to ask this question. What's your blueprint for creating jobs and in what sectors? Let's start with Ahmed.
Well, I like
just
the fact...
be very, very specific. What's your blueprint for creating jobs and in which sectors?
Yes. To be honest, before we can create these jobs, we would have to look at how we can support education. We have a huge population of people
that... support for education?
Yes.
What else?
Support for education, support for agriculture, because the people have got to be fed, and of course power.
Okay.
When we have these three things, without forgetting
fixed education, fixed power...
without forgetting the fact that before you can actually treat the Nigerian case, you need to have an understanding of how many people we're dealing with. So we need proper data management systems that can give us a clear understanding of what we're going to be dealing with.
All right. Eunice, jobs.
To create jobs, you have to open up the economy, like I said earlier, and bring in more of private sector activities. Allow the private people to come in, whether it's in education, whether it is in entertainment, whether it is in health. As long as the private sector is taking over a lot of these things that we see our government dealing with, you will see there's no efficiency and then there's a larger room to play. So the people who have money outside this country bring in the money and they invest this in our education. You have more teachers, you have more electricity consumption. So the people who are generating, transmitting and distributing electricity are making money. The people who are teaching and making money, the janitors, there's so much more opportunity for people at all levels of education. Okay. So for me, to create jobs, open up the economy, bring in private sector activities, and then the jobs will naturally come.
Emmanuel.
So we have said we can create 35 to 40 billion jobs. Number one, if you look...
how long? For what duration of
over
time?
The next 24 months to 36 months. And how is that possible? In the dairy section alone, between production and packaging, you can create 11 million jobs. In the real estate industry alone, the real estate construction industry, you can create 22 million jobs in the first 2 years of our government. The third part of it, we have said that job creation is...
How are you going to do that?
Oh, first of all, let me give you an example. Do you realize that in the...
Briefly, because
no, I just want to give you an example. Real estate sector, for example, there is about 68 trillion $68 billion available for Nigeria to attract when it comes to real estate industry. The problem we have is that the current infrastructure with our real estate sector is that, one, the people who need houses, who earn between 30,000 and 70,000 can't have a house because they can't get mortgage. Yeah, that's number one. Number two, the cost of housing, access to land, the amount of time it takes to get the certificate of, occupancy takes such a long time. So investment in this sector is so high risk. And then what you must also understand about this is that if you want to actually make sure that you create jobs in that sector and there's construction that can happen, then take government out of it. The total amount of budget, in fact, the highest amount that government budget is 36 billion naira. And that 36 billion naira is what everybody wants to get money from. So everybody's waiting for government 36 billion so they can construct. And a few private sector who are constructing for 1% of Nigerians who can afford 1.8 million. How many are those in Nigeria?
Okay. Chike.
Education. Jobs. I think all other sectors depend on education. So you cannot create the right kind of jobs in healthcare if you don't have the right teaching hospitals to train healthcare providers, right? So education is extremely important. Like I talked about the 4-solution plan, feed the people, which is poverty alleviation. Now, poverty alleviation is designed to turn people from jobless people to become job creators. I would advise,
because we've heard about feed the
people. So remember I said there are 4 of them. Yeah. Feed the people, invest in our well-being. Invest in our well-being is investment in infrastructure, is in healthcare, is in the environment, is in power, is in security. All of these create jobs, right? The next one is invest in our ideas. This is in redesigning our educational curriculum to move from cranking out job seekers to job creators, so that when people graduate from secondary school, they have what it takes to create small businesses. When people graduate from universities, they can apply what they have spent 4 or 5 years learning into turning out a new business. And then, of course, invest in our future is an understanding that there are technologies of the futures that we need to train people on, whether it's blockchain technologies, whether it's artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, all of that. Training them means that you're preparing them for a future where they can now start to create jobs, not just for themselves, but to lead the global economy. So our 4-solution plan creates jobs, not just for today, but for tomorrow as well.
Jobs.
Thank you very much. Job creation is not, I have to be very practical. I believe in immediate solution. And if you look at the time frame that we have, 4 years, and you talk about 50 million jobs and all of that, it's not realistic. But the first thing we need to do is to deal with the security issues. We have 4 legal borders in Nigeria, and we have 1,836 illegal borders in this country. A lot of goods are coming in. We are not looking at the security of the consumers, the people, the immigration services, the custom, the issues around what is coming into our country. And then what are people actually engaged in? That's first. We need to deal with the security situation. Having talked about that, we need to create an enabling environment. Nigerians are very creative and productive. If they have that enabling environment, Ariara market, Onitsha, different markets in Nigeria that you can actually, if you have enough power, that you can actually get power generating system flow, they can build up businesses on their own. But first thing our government is going to be looking at is, we are going to open up a space on the sport industry. We are going to make sure that the sport, we actually invest in sporting activities in Nigeria in order to engage the teeming youths who are actually building themselves up. Then we'll open the market internationally. Then we'll look at entertainment industry also, which is thriving in Nigeria currently. The government is not giving critical attention to entertainment and tourism. These are places that we can quickly create jobs. Okay. And when we guide them with enough policies, we can actually get people engaging.
Okay, just a minute.
Unfortunately,
because he said it's not practical. That's not acceptable. Because
no, we can engage after this. I understand.
We can do that.
Yeah, but this is not a debate. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, gentlemen.
I know.
But we've got a question here on social media, and the question is from Prof. UK. He said, "How would you tackle the herdsmen farmer crisis in Nigeria to ensure the end of loss of lives and property?" Anyone wants to?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that.
In 1 minute.
Yes. The issue we have currently, if you look at it, like I said earlier, Nigeria is a very naked country to so many things.
What will you do to tackle this crisis?
We are going to do a unity talk. A unity talk is necessary for this country right now.
Amen.
Yes.
We don't have a choice. If we really want to tackle this farmer header situation, there's no how we can talk about ranching. There's no way we're not going to talk about innovative ways of involving ourselves into this other side of agriculture. And so, like my dear friend here spoke about the dairy industry. It's huge. I don't know how many millions it can bring, but not that much, but it can bring a lot of millions of people into the jobs. And not just that, we're going to have to advise these herders to understand that not just the skin from the back of the livestock you can use for hides and skin or for leather manufacturing. You can also have the beef better processed. You can even have the dung that you collect from those ranches and process them into ammonia gas. There's so much we can do. But again, we will have to also advise that before now, there used to be farmlands, there used to be pathways where these herders could pass and follow. Now they're all farmlands. It's important for us.
That's fine. Farmer herders?
I think part of the problem we have with the farmers herders problem is the fact that we don't really understand the problem here, right? So part of the reason why this is happening is there's desertification from the Sahara that's claiming land where these people have normally called home. So it's an understanding that we can reclaim some of this land from bioforestation. But the question is, during that process, what do we need to do to ensure that these farmers, because one is livestock and one is crops, do not fight and kill themselves. So it's telling the herders, hey guys, we're going to take a portion of Sambisa first and turn them into world-class ranches to hold you while we reclaim this land. And for the cash farmers, it's like you compensate them for what's been damaged and teach people through technology, through education, on how to produce better products. So if we fully understand, and I put out a 10-point solution to this, if we fully understand our problems, it's easier to start to solve them. Diplomacy is extremely important as well. Solving this.
All right. I know that we've got some folks in the audience who have not asked a question. I'll just give just two opportunities. Hamza and the guy behind. Please, in 1 minute.
My name is Hamzat Lawal. I'm a member of the Not Too Young to Run movement, and I follow the money. I want to ask you all, have you declared your asset publicly? And if elected into office, would you declare your asset? That's my first question. My second
No, we can only take one question. Thank you. Can you give the mic to the person behind? Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everybody. My name is Will Cox. So I want to ask one question. You know, in Nigeria, it's very hard for you to do business. When it comes to ease of doing business. So what is your question?
We know that.
So how are we going to increase the ease of doing business? Yeah.
All right, ease of doing business. First, have you all declared your assets? Ademola, have you declared your assets?
Yeah, I've declared it privately to myself. I've already written it down, and I'm going to present that to your country.
No, but happy to do that.
Yeah.
Have you
I'll
declared
definitely
your
do that.
Well, what is the asset to declare?
You say you were very rich. You go from poor to rich.
Eunice, have you declared your assets?
No, I'm not a public officer. You don't have to until you become a public officer.
I haven't declared, but I'll be willing to declare.
Very willing.
Very willing.
You all will be willing.
Yeah, 100%.
Why not?
What is there to declare, Seth?
No, that's not the issue.
Well, for record, I will declare.
Of course. Please, we do encourage, and that's why at this stage we will take the pledge, the Ready to Run pledge, because as Nigeria's new tribe, which we claim, we also want to espouse those values that we hold very, very dear, and the values of integrity. And it's a tradition on this show that if you feature on this show, you must sign the Ready to Run pledge, which simply is an instrument of accountability that you pledge to uphold the principles of patriotism and refrain from hate speech or dissemination of fake news. And you urge your supporters not to involve themselves in any form of violence. And if you accept to this pledge, we urge you to actually sign that. Viewers, we can have the pledge displayed on your screen. If you're a regular, this is a pledge that we all our presidential candidates are going to be signing. We will hold you to account.
Can we keep answering questions though?
It's not working.
Please, can you just go ahead and sign? Okay, yes, we can give you. Well, viewers, you can be a part of this show. The hashtag is Ready to Run. Ready to Run is a hashtag, and our handle on Twitter and Facebook is Ready to Run NG. Ready to Run NG is our Twitter handle and our Facebook handle. We will go on a short break, and when we come back, we will meet the other youth candidates who are running for elections. Please stay tuned. Welcome back from that very short break. With 91 political parties spread across Nigeria, we've got young people who are running for office. And like we do on this show, every week, we bring new youth candidates who are running for different elections. And today we bring 5 youth candidates who are running for different elections in Nigeria. And you would see them displayed on your screen. This week, we've got Adewumi Adebayo, who is running for the State House of Assembly's elections from Shomolu State Constituency in Lagos State. Shomolu Constituency 1 in Lagos State, and he's of the Action Democratic Party, ADP, and he's 31 years. We also have this week Abbas Tukur Ahmad, who is also running for a seat in the Bauchi State House of Assembly, representing Bauchi Central constituency. He's of the Green Party of Nigeria, GPN, and he's 30 years old. This week we have Mohammed Bature Mohammed, who is from Kogi State, running for State House of Assembly to represent Lokoja 1 State constituency from the Accord Party, and he's 32. Next, we've got Akko Oche Johnson, also running for a seat in the State House of Assembly in Benue State in Opoku State constituency. He's from the African Action Congress, AAC, and he's 28. That's another beneficiary of the Not Too Young to Run Act. Lastly, we have Atolosi Damilola Anthony, running also for State House of Assembly elections to represent Akure South 2 State constituency in Ondo State under the platform of the Allied Congress Party of Nigeria, ACPN, and he is 27 years. We've got 28 and 27 years. These are young people who are beneficiaries of the struggle of a lot of young Nigerians who march to the streets to change their constitution. So those are our youth candidates for the week. As always, we enjoin you to be a part of this show, and you can join this conversation on social media. And the social media hashtag is hashtag Ready to Run. Ready to Run is the hashtag. And our handle on Twitter and Facebook is Ready to Run NG. Would like to hear from you. So please send us an email, send your comments, send your suggestions to readytorun@yiga.org. readytorun@yiga.org is the Twitter, is our email, and it's displayed on your screen. This is the part of the show that I don't like, and this is when we have to draw a curtain on this week's edition of the show. But before then, we've got a message of the week. And after the message of the week, we'll leave you with a sweet rendition by Nigeria's finest celebrities on the elections. And our message of the week displayed on your screen is: the choice you make on February 16th will determine the quality of your life for the next 4 years. Vote wisely, remain at the polling station to protect your vote. And for me, Samson Itodo, I'd like to say thank you very, very much for joining us on this week's edition of the show. And we leave you with this sweet rendition by Two-Face and Co., which is focused on the elections. Bye-bye.